Welcome to the Dakota Digital Film Festival preview show. We are getting ready for Friday, April 25th, the third annual festival. And today we have one of the filmmakers from our evening selections, and the film festival is composed of two parts. It has a day session from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., mainly workshops and some student films. That is free and open to the public. We do ask that you register, though, by going to dakotadigitalfilmfestival.org or call 701-258-8767. And the second component of the festival is the evening selections of short films. These are the best films. They're very high quality. They will look great. It's in the beautiful Belmehus Auditorium on the big screen. The session is $15 for tickets. You can also get those at the same website and or phone number. We'll be flashing that on the screen throughout. And today we have with us Ryan Spindell, the director of The Root of the Problem. He is Skyped in, obviously, as you see, from Los Angeles, California. And welcome to our show, Ryan.
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on, making time out of your busy schedule. Your film, The Root of the Problem, is visually stunning. It is such a beautiful film. What was the inspiration to this film? How was it born?
It was born sort of two parts. It started out, my co-writer had written the short as a writing exercise. It was like a 5-page writing exercise, and his whole goal initially was, can I tell a complete story with 3 characters in one room in 5 minutes? And so I sort of read that, and I loved it, and then I thought, well, you know what I'll do is I'll just get 3 great actors and I'll like build a little dental office in the corner of my room, and it'll just be a fun little exercise. And then it just expanded and expanded and expanded. And eventually I got to the point where I realized it wasn't going to work in my room, and I was building a set, and we realized we had to expand the script. And so that's sort of where it was born, kind of, it was sort of a progression from something small to bigger to bigger to bigger, and sort of trying to sort of scrape to make it work along the way. But inspiration-wise, for me, I grew up with The Twilight Zone. My dad was a huge fan, and he owned the whole VHS set. And I watched them repeatedly, and I sort of always loved that classic aesthetic and that sort of brand of storytelling. And they're also just great screenplays if you ever get a chance to read them. So we kind of wanted to do sort of an homage to The Twilight Zone, but sort of updated with a bit of a modern kick.
Yeah, and I think you definitely have that magic, and you figured out how to create that mystique where you're constantly guessing. Like, throughout the film, I'm kind of waiting on the edge of my seat, but yet the directing is so nicely done too. It's not over the top. It's realistic. It rides that magical little realm, that genre, really nicely. I thought of a lot of different influences as I watched that, a lot of the great artists, and I was wondering, what is your background? Do you have a background in theater? Or?
My background is actually art and design. So I went to school for graphic design. I worked as a graphic designer for a long time, and then I was a photographer for ABC News for about a year and a half. And that sort of thing, I think, really comes into play. I actually initially sort of venued into filmmaking through production design, but then I sort of realized I wasn't getting the fun design gigs that I wanted to, so I started making my own films. And then, you know, once you cross over to the dark side of directing, it's hard to go back. But this project was sort of a perfect example because we made it with no money, but I had these sort of Tim Burton aspirations, and what I ended up doing is, you know, we were looking for locations, and there are no locations that don't cost a fortune here in Los Angeles. So I ended up just deciding that I was going to go on Craigslist, and I would buy, or I would not even buy, I would just sort of take flats from other sets that people were throwing away, and started Frankensteining them together in my friend's warehouse, and ended up creating the set, and I needed props, and so there was months of Craigslist scouring to find the dental props that I felt like I had to have, and I sort of found them, you know, a piece here, a piece there. Did a lot of refurbishing in my bedroom. I actually still have a piece in my bedroom right here. which is like from the which is from the movie that I loved so much I couldn't get rid of. It's just so cool.
Definitely is. Who else did you have with helping on the set, like set design?
Set design wise, my cinematographer was also my co-producer. So it was sort of like him and I kind of came together and decided we were going to make a thing. And we sort of put all the pieces together. And then along the way, we ended up recruiting other people who started seeing the stuff we were doing and getting excited about it. And we had Sinead Clancy, who was the sort of production designer who sort of drew out some sketches and sort of helped us sort of connect with different places. But and then I had a great art director, Carolyn Cannon, who sort of came in at the last minute and sort of I was like, here's the set, but we need things on the shelves and it has to look old timey. And she did all of that in like a day and sort of really kicked ass and sort of.
Well, she definitely succeeded because it really looks like it is shot in the 1950s, and it has that magic of a really old building. I thought you were in an old hospital or something that you found somewhere and worked with. That's really surprising that this was all set, all shot on set. Nothing was shot on location?
No, not a thing. The whole thing was shot in my friend's warehouse. We and this is literally an example of every single dollar going right onto screen. The whole crew were volunteers. Most of the equipment were sort of borrowed because people owed us favors because we do other stuff for free all the time. And it's sort of this bartering system amongst independent filmmakers. And really it was just about paint and pipes and that's it. Paint and pipes and paper mache.
And speaking of pipes, that initial shot coming in, that has to be animation, huh?
No, but that's a very nice compliment. Yeah, no, the one of my things about this was it was the first time that I needed visual effects, or I thought I needed visual effects, and as soon as I finished the project, I was like, oh, people are going to be so excited about it, and I'll reach out and they'll want to sort of donate their time. And then I realized that visual effects artists are way too busy to donate anything. And so basically that whole opening pipe sequence, which I had envisioned as being all digitally done, we just couldn't do it all. So what I ended up doing was just buying these like cardboard tubes that you can buy at Home Depot that you pour cement into. And I painted the inside on my porch, and we sort of laid them on the table, and then we put a 5D camera on the end of a 2x4 and a skateboard and just rolled the camera into the tubes. And then we'd pull a string and the camera would kind of jerk right at the very end. And we just did that several times and pieced it all together. And then the fly effect is a still image of a fly with just a lot of sound effects.
Wow, very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was all 3D animation done in Maya or some great software. So very nicely done.
I was really adamant about the pipes from the beginning, and my DP was like, I don't understand why. But my whole feeling was we're going to be stuck in this room the whole time. So like we have to sort of embody it with this idea that like maybe there's more going on or there's more beyond these four walls. Yeah. So and it's tough depending on what kind of sound system you have. What happens is as it goes by, there's like sort of branches, and when it goes by branches, we have like people screaming or like drills coming from different rooms to sort of hopefully sort of imbue this idea that there's like several rooms. In my mind, this dental office is like huge, like 100 rooms of just people getting their teeth pulled, like a factory. But it's too, and it's like the challenge of, man. I mean, when my co-writer set out to write this complete story that's in a room, all I could think to myself was, what a great short film, because it'll be such a limited location. It'll be so simple.
Character driven.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know. What I realized, especially when the film got longer, because the film now is like 13 minutes, I realized, oh man, this is a one scene in real time that I have to keep people's attention for 13 minutes straight. And the nurse and the dentist barely move. And main character sits in the same spot the entire movie, and she has like 3 lines of dialogue. So like there's nothing to play off of other than just image and cutting. Yeah. And that was like, it was an amazing challenge, but it was a learning lesson too, because people don't want to watch a 13-minute scene. I'm not Martin Scorsese.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't, and it's getting shorter and shorter. They went on, everything is like.
Yeah.
A short film used to be 40 minutes. Now it's 7 minutes, or 15 max. What has the audience's reaction been to this film so far?
This has been a weird one because my last film was a straight horror film, um, and the audience, I got amazing reactions. This one, because it's sort of a crossing of genres, it's sort of like one in every three people absolutely love it, and then those other two people kind of don't know if they're supposed to be scared or laughing. And I mean, ideally for me, this is the kind of movie I would like to see, and ideally you are scared and you're laughing, and it's all of those things. Um, I think like growing up in the '80s was like a time where horror movies could be fun and scary, and so I sort of miss that sort of fantastic um, cross genre blend. And in doing this, I knew it was a risk because it's going to alienate some people. And my immediate reaction was, "Oh crap, I messed up. I should have just gone for something straight down the middle." But in retrospect, as it's sort of grown, and the really passionate fans have reached out to me, I'm realizing that I did make the thing that's reaching the people I wanted to reach, and that's sort of like I don't know a huge thing I would pass on to other filmmakers who like maybe want to try something a little bit offbeat or different, but are sort of nervous how it's going to be received. I say go for it because everyone can make a short film these days, and everyone can make a great-looking short film. So I think if you want to make something really interesting and unique, the short format's the way to do it.
Yeah. And I think the crossing of genres, you pulled it off. You did it in a really nice way where if someone did want to just be scared, it's really scary. But if you want to lighten it up a little bit and see the dark comedy part of it, you have that. And then there's also the out in that it doesn't necessarily say how it's going to end. And you don't know. Everything is so well symbolized. You're really not sure if it is the anesthesia and her paranoia, or if it is really this dark secret that the dentist. I'm not trying to give anything away here for the audience who hasn't seen this film, but yeah, I really like how you leave it open.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it was a big part of going into it was sort of like if we're going to create this hyper weird, or like hyper real, candy colored 1950s world, and these sort of slightly larger than life characters in the nurse and the dentist, then we sort of really had to ground Mary, the central character, in sort of a realistic approach, so that way we had a perspective of which to sort of view this sort of ridiculous situation. And I think she hopefully comes across that she feels the same as we do, which is like, what is this creepy dentist talking about, and what have I got myself into?
Yeah. Have there been any dentists that have had any backlash towards you, or is that you're going to make everybody scared to death of dentistry?
I know, I mentioned this movie to my dentist, and he was like, "But why would you do that? People are already so scared of dentists." And personally, no. I mean, I've sort of been blessed with good teeth, so I've never had a cavity. I've never had my wisdom teeth removed. I've never had any needles in my mouth. I'm terrified of needles in general, but especially in my mouth. So I think it's more of this like, what if I had to get a needle in my mouth fear than an actual experience.
Yeah. What was your favorite part about shooting this film?
Probably, that's a tough one. Probably finishing it. I mean, it was a labor of love, and I know that's a cliched thing to say, but it really was like an all-consuming thing, and that's sort of that's the thing is that like I was talking to some friends the other day, and they were talking about we were talking about sort of the fantastic quality that the films of the '80s had, and we're basically saying that nowadays independent filmmakers, they're sort of they see what they can afford, and then they create stories that work really well within the context of something very limited or small. And there's I think some of the best films, some genre films especially, are in the independent world. But I miss that sort of larger than life fantastic type of film, and they're not really making them in the studios anymore unless you're Tim Burton. And they're not making them independently because people just can't afford to do it. So with this project, it was, like I said, it was months of sort of me and my producer doing everything ourselves before we sort of built up enough steam to get a whole crew behind us. And and it was rough. I mean, I specifically remember this one moment. I was painting the set, and it was like midnight, and I looked at my clock, and I was like, oh man, I'm directing in 7 hours, and I haven't even looked at the script in like a week. So it was a real like, just get through it, and it'll all be worth it in the end. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be the audience. I mean, I love every single aspect. I love the design elements. I love working with the special effects makeup people. Even doing that pipe thing with the camera, which I was dreading, ended up being really rewarding to sort of be able to go in my living room with a 2x4 and a skateboard and put something in the computer that is probably better than anything I could have ever afforded visual effects wise. So, so I mean, I don't. It's like it all seems so hard and it all seems so rewarding. And the only part which doesn't seem like really difficult is watching it with an audience and having them, applaud.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And can you tell us a little bit about the collaboration with you and your DP?
Sure. Yeah, my DP is an old friend of mine from film school. I went to Florida State University, and we were just hanging out one night. I think we were having dinner, and we were sort of thinking, let's just do a thing. Like, you've been shooting a bunch of stuff. I've been writing. I've been here in LA for 6 years now, just writing. I didn't become a filmmaker to write, to sit in a coffee shop or in my bedroom and work on scripts. So we were just like, hey, I'll pitch in $1,000. You'll pitch in $1,000. My co-writer who like wrote the original script, he'll pitch in $1,000, and we'll just make a movie for $3,000. And like I said, it sort of did blow up and get bigger than that. Eventually, it cost us about $8,000 to sort of finish the whole thing, and about 50% of that going to post, which was surprising.
Yeah. You can tell because it's really well polished, right down to the audio and the Foley artist work. It's
thank you.
Really nicely done. Whether it's the sound of the lights or the buzzing of the fly, or general sound, really, really well done. And what about your actors? Where did you find these three? The main ones.
Well, because this sort of originated as an acting exercise, I just sort of, one of the advantage, there's the disadvantage of being in LA, which is locations are crazy ridiculous. It's nice all the time. Now, that's not really a disadvantage, but I have actors that I know through film school, through working on sets, through helping on other people, and I sort of just said, instead of doing a casting process, I just want to take the 3 best actors that I know and put them in the script and then write the roles for them. And so, the script ended up being an initial blueprint for how it would be, and then, we would just rehearse it, just real, like, basic rehearsing, but any little thing that they wanted to bring, I was sort of fair game and sort of let them take the characters and turn it into whatever ownership they wanted to take of it. So all 3 of them were, Bria Grant was a good friend of mine. Ptolemy was also a friend of mine. That's the dentist, who's just this insane actor. I initially, when I wrote the script, I had this very Norman Rockwell kind of like dapper type of dentist in mind. And as soon as I saw Ptolemy's reel, I was like, oh, he can do anything. He can absolutely do anything. And once he put on the uniform, I was like, I can't even imagine it being anybody else. And then Allison was also a great friend of mine who had been in some amazing films. She was in the Student Academy Award-winning film Rundown a few years ago. And she's just a phenomenal actor. So I got really lucky. I didn't even have there's no stress whatsoever in the casting department.
Yeah, the performances were incredible. Really.
Yeah. Nothing to do with me. It's all them.
And modest as well. Well, hey, what is your next project? Where are you headed in the future?
So again, part of the thing about shorts is a lot of people see shorts as a sort of a stepping stone. I personally just love shorts. I love reading short stories. I love watching shorts. I'm obsessed with shorts, and I'm also obsessed with anthology films, like Creepshow, or like series like Twilight Zone, like I said, and Tales from the Crypt. And so basically I've created this project called the Mortuary Collection, which is a sort of like an old school horror anthology film that has somewhat of a storybook aesthetic, kind of like a Guillermo del Toro dark fable aesthetic, and it's all set in this small New England town, and it's these four different horror stories. Each is a different subgenre. It's a ghost story, a monster movie, sort of a psychological tale of madness, and a slasher film. And each of the storylines are sort of independent shorts, but they're also intertwined in this town, kind of creating this this fabric of this sort of place where nothing is as it seems. And it's like this project that's tonally, it's probably a little bit more horror than The Root of the Problem, but it's tonally still has the same sort of vibe. There's like, hopefully there's a lot of scariness, but hopefully there's also a lot of humor and there's a lot of fun. And you know, it's a tough project to get going through the studio system, so I said no to the studio system altogether, and we're basically in the process right now of putting together a Kickstarter campaign in which we're going to sort of drum up some excitement, sort of hopefully tap into these fans that kind of miss this type of horror or want to see it for the first time maybe, and sort of bring it back on an independent level and hopefully bring a little bit of the fantastic back to independent film.
Great. Well put. Well, we are running out of time, and I would like to just thank you for coming on. It's really great that you were able to share a little bit of your thoughts with us, and now we feel a little bit closer to you since you're not able to make it all the way up to North Dakota for the actual festival. So we really appreciate that. And for you in the audience, if you like Tim Burton, if you like Alfred Hitchcock, if you like any of these magical, really mystical, wonderful films, you are going to love The Root of the Problem, and we encourage you to come April 25th, 7 p.m. here in Bismarck at the beautiful Belmejos Auditorium. At 7 p.m. we have the evening screenings of the best short films. This is definitely going to be one of the top. We had the pleasure of having Ryan Spindell here, and we wish him all the best. And if he's ever in North Dakota, we're gonna get him up to our festival, or we're gonna make him shoot something here.
Absolutely, yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, take care, Ryan.
You too.
And if you haven't got tickets yet, they are still available. They are $15, and you can get them by going to dakotadigitalfilmfestival.org. or call 701-258-8767. April 25th, Friday night, at the Belmejos Auditorium, 7 p.m. Be there.
I left my heart inside a dream. Wish I had him back beside me. The tooth fairy came to my pillow and he left with my heart.
Oh! You're not running out on me, are you?
You know, I just don't understand why I have to have my teeth pulled.
Have you ever heard the original story of the Tooth Fairy?
Deep breaths through the nose.
Creepy stuff. Feel a little woozy. Tooth fairies were creatures that lived beneath the earth and feasted on the bones and teeth of the dead.
They ate bones?
And teeth. Why? I know visiting the dentist has gotta be frightening, but I assure you, we're not monsters.
The tooth fairy came to my pillow and he left with my heart.
View this program again at freetv.org, on Community Access Channel 12, or order a copy, info@freetv.org or 258-8767.